talking about FHA self-sufficiency tests and, buyers beware. First off, what is FHA? And then in short, what is the self-sufficiency test so that we can give them a little background?
Yeah, FHA is it's a government insured mortgage. It's meant for primary occupied borrowers, people purchasing real estate, and they're going to use that piece of property as their primary address, owner occupancy. You can buy a single family, a two family, a three family, or four family with just 3.5% down. So there's a lot of positives to it. And then but there are some other stricter things, like the condition of the house has to be in a generally a better shape than some of the other loans. Mortgage insurance is fixed to the loan for the life of the loan. So the only way that you get out of PMI is to refinance out of it. So that's some of the negatives. And when you're buying a three or a four family, you have to incorporate this extra step called a self-sufficiency test. And this only applies if you need the rental income from the property that you're purchasing to qualify for the loan. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people buy two, three, or four families and they make enough money that they don't need to offset the payment with the rental income coming from the subject property. And again, this only applies to 3 or 4 family homes. Buyers need the projected rental income to qualify for the mortgage, because 3 or 4 family homes are going for a pretty penny these days. They're very highly sought after. They're expensive. So not everybody can buy. You get qualified for more money with a 3 or 4 family if you're using the rental income, because it's extra added income to your application. Versus if you just go buy a single family, because there's nothing to make money on. There's no extra unit to rent out.
So do leases have to be in place when you're purchasing that property then, or can it be a month-to-month type of lease? Does it have to be a year-long lease?
No, no lease is required. Essentially, when the appraiser goes to the subject property to do an appraisal report, which determines the value of the home, they also do a rental market analysis. So they state on the appraisal what the market rent would be for any of the units that are available for rent. Even the unit that the buyer plans on occupying, that rent schedule is on there as a general review of the home. And what we're running into, which is the beware component, is so the self-sufficiency test is an equation that is the lender takes the appraisal report and adds up all the rent from all 3 or 4 units, depending on how many there are for the property. Yeah. And they add them all up and they deduct 25%. It's called a vacancy factor. Yeah. So whatever that number is, even the rent from the primary, wherever the buyer is going to live in, they also include that rent, but they deduct this 25%. Whatever that number is, at 25% less, has to be higher than or equal to the mortgage payment. So if the mortgage payment is higher than what the rental market is with a 25% vacancy factor, you fail the test and therefore you can't fund the loan. Not a lot of these 3 families or 4 families are passing the self-sufficiency test for a couple of reasons. One, the rent that's in place might not be reflective of the current market conditions. That's because the landlord hasn't adjusted the rent to match where the appropriate rent should be. So that's one major issue. The next major issue is that the payment that you have to try to beat with the rent is super high right now because of rates. So interest rates are, 6%. That means the principal and interest payment is higher than any of us have seen in a long, long time. And therefore, that's the reason what's driving rental market so high, is because real estate investors need to cover their payment, and you're not even breaking even there on your payment. Forget the 25% vacancy factor. You're not even covering the full payment with the rent, which is why you bought this thing to begin with.